From the Tulsa World, this is the Newsroom Podcast. I'm Editor Jason Collington. It's a chance for me to talk to the newsroom staff of the Tulsa World here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today, I'm going to be talking with Chief Photographer Tom Gilbert. He's been with the Tulsa World for a long time, and he had some photos appear in this month's Tulsa World Magazine that has gotten some attention, and then also wanted to kind of talk about his career a little bit, some photos from his past, from the work that he's done that have stuck with him over the years. And then, as I said, this is a chance kind of to talk about the stories behind the story. And today we're going to talk to Tom. Tom, thanks for joining me. We are this month we put out what we call our beautiful issue. It's the 14 most beautiful places in Oklahoma. And you had not only the cover, but you also had a center spread, and we shared that on social media this week and got some great reaction from it. It was photos that you took of the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve, and one of the things I think that really touched a lot of people is that you were able to get two scenes from the same place. Let's first talk about the cover, how you got that shot, and then talk about the center spread and the story behind that shot as well.
Well, the cover, was a horizontal cover. It was shot horizontally, and I'd been there at the Tallgrass for hours. I mean, I got there before the sun rose, and then we went over to a different location where there was more wildflowers. Went over with Harvey Payne, who's sort of an administrator over there. And the sky cleared. It was beautiful blue sky, and wildflowers are just, going crazy. And the reason I went up there is to get some drone footage, which they don't allow just anybody to have drone. You have to have approval and go through the process. And I said, this would be a great opportunity to get some drone footage. So I did shoot drone of that scene, but I also shot stuff with my other camera, not a drone camera. And it just, that one little tree out there in the middle of the prairie, it just made for a nice composition. And I wanted to stay there all day because it just kept on getting better and better. It was just so beautiful up there.
And then on the center spread, you're able to bring some colors into it that just, again, this is an audio podcast, and I'll put links to all these photos in the description, but talk to me about where you went, what time, and then what did you see in front of you that you were able to capture?
Well, it's interesting, because it's about an hour and a half to get up there, and on the way up to Pawhuska, and then Tallgrass Prairie is just a little north of that. I drove my Mustang, which is fairly low to the ground, and the tall grass has tall grass. It's the reason it's called tall grass.
Right.
And so I met Harvey Payne, and it was funny. We met at the same exact time. Right. We just drove in together, and it was before dawn. It was dark outside, and so I'm driving as far as I can. It's like, I don't think I can go any farther. So anyway, we stopped at this one location, and we got out and started shooting, and the sun had not quite come up yet, and it was a little bit cloudy, which actually made for good pictures, and a little bit foggy. So that combined with the sun rising, it was just sort of breathtaking. And I was also flying the drone at that time too, so not at the same time, but around that time. And it was just watching that. One thing that I really like about the tall grass, you can get away from every man-made structure. It's just nature, and that's what really impresses me out there. It's just all nature, and there's not. It's hard to do that. It's hard to get away from anything man-made anymore. So I think that's what made it. It was just simple and beautiful, and
well, there's a red in that picture that is just such a deep dark color that is. Well, with the fog, and then you got the buffalo. I'm telling you, it's just something that people are really responding to, and just a moment there that, again, not many people can get out there at that time at that place to see that. And so we again, that's something that we do here. You guys as photographers, you get the access that a lot of people don't get, and to share that with people and to have the kind of response we've gotten so far. It's just one of those things that makes what we do special, because again, not anyone could just go out there with a camera and capture what you captured. I think the other thing is that and again, this latest magazine is a great opportunity for not just you, but the other photographers to share some stuff of not only the most beautiful places, but we also in there had the moment, which is again a place where we let you and the staff photographers of the Tulsa World kind of put something in the magazine that stops them. So again, we always give a lot of pages to the magazine to our photographers, just like we do in the paper, just like we do online, because again, you guys have just a special job and a special opportunity that so many people don't have to capture things that they can't see.
It's really, go ahead. It's really, that's what the best thing about the job is to be able to see things that most people don't see or don't have the opportunity to see, and to bring that to the audience. And to me, that just is the love of my job, just being able to do things that other people can't do, but sharing that.
Well, and one of the things that you're famous for is that if something happens, get Tom in a helicopter. We've got drones now, but for years and years and years, it was you jumping into a helicopter, strap it in to make sure that you don't fall out. And one photo that we've used of you in the years past is you hanging out of this helicopter taking photos. I think it was during the flooding that we had. And again, both you and Mike Simons are both trained drone pilots now. You have your license, all that stuff. And we use a lot more drone stuff now, but for years and years you were up in helicopters. What are some helicopter trips that pop into your mind of things that you just couldn't believe?
I mean, you can't get the access. I mean, even with the drones, you can get access, but you can't get the access like a real helicopter. You can't travel miles and miles and get numerous shots. The flooding, for an example, I think we had more hits on that than anything in the world on our gallery.
Yes.
In the history, I guess. I mean, because it was such vast flooding, and being able to cover that much distance was great. But we also had the fires over in Manford. There was some major fires. Yes. Wildfires were crazy, and it looked like I had one shot that it just reminded me of a war zone. The helicopter dumping water on homes, and the flames coming, the fires coming up, and it was just crazy how that can happen here. You don't think about it, but those wildfires they take out everything and anything in its path. And that I wouldn't be able to get that with the drone because there's other helicopters up there. You had to be in communication with the other helicopters, so that worked out nice to actually be in another helicopter. So. But again, getting the bird's eye view, you can see stuff on the ground, and it's great to get photos from the ground, but to get that different perspective really helps tell the story.
Well, and sometimes when you get up that high, you could give some context, like this is how bad the flooding really is. I mean, you see some flooding here, but no, it's so huge. And I remember we did a 6-column photo, pretty much the whole front page. We did of some of the water coming out of the dams because they had to be released some water, some of the flooding that was over by River Spirit that was just, up into the swimming pool, up against the building. I mean, he said, you've been able to, with that view, be able to show some things that none of our competition could show you, and also give some context because you're like, no, it's not that big. It's this big.
Right.
That's one of the great things. I asked you to send me some of your photos over your career. And of course there's some moments here that hit me pretty big. You've been here a long time. And so of course you were here during the Oklahoma City bombing. And there's a photo of a guy firefighter that was on TV pretty much every day for felt like months. He was the public face of the fire department as they were doing that rescue mission. Take us back to that photo. It's a moment that it certainly hit me when I saw it when you sent it to me.
Yeah, that was a photos during I guess it was a memorial that happened maybe a month afterwards. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it had some roses that were stuck in a barricade, and then he just it was like a moment of silence, but you could tell that hit him as much as it hit me. The emotions just came over, and to me, him in that position, being the spokesperson, it hit him, and I think it told the story of the state, really.
Yeah, that was John Hanson. Many people remember
Right.
John Hanson as the person who was in front of the cameras, giving the reports daily as they continued to find bodies, as they continued to go through the rubble. That was one that really hit me. There's another one that had a little girl along the fence at the bombing. It looks like she's either praying or she's got her head bowed. And that fence was something that, again, allowed a lot of people to share their grief and honor those who died. That was one that really hit me. There's also one that, we cover tornadoes, and just like you and the photographers, you guys wake up at dawn the next day after a tornado and start going around. There was a tornado damage where you've got someone hugging someone else, and their roof is just the second floor of their house is just gone. It's just all gone. Take me back to that moment, Tom.
Yeah, that I believe that was in near Coweta, or at least around there. And we didn't know about it until the next morning, of course. And I'm like, oh, I got to get out there. So as soon as I woke up, head that way. And it wasn't a vast tornado, but it's vast to those people. I mean, that destroyed their home.
Absolutely.
And so I went to just walking around, basically just walking around the neighborhood, and Red Crosses started showing up, and that was actually a Red Cross employee that was hugging that woman. And I felt for her, because her house, I mean, again, you see that the roof is gone. So it was one of those situations where you're showing grief, but people are showing compassion as well. So it was that happens at every tornado, basically. It's people going through a bad time and people there lifting them up.
One of on the lighter side, you also cover a ton of concerts. You and I were at Gary Clark Jr. not too long ago at Cain's, which was an incredible show. But you've in your portfolio, you've got a couple shots that I want to print off and put on my wall. You've got one of Willie Nelson, and again, it's not of his face. It's down where his hand is on his guitar, that old guitar it's been through everything.
Right.
And you've got another one that kind of juxtaposes that with Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, which I'm excited about seeing in September. It kind of the same thing, where it's down where the guitar is, where their hand meets the guitar on the strings. Talk to me about some of your music stuff that you really dug into.
Yeah, and that's one of my passions too. I love, and in fact, I've been shooting a lot more. I've been listening to a lot more music. I used to just listen to one type of music, and now I'm just like all over the place, because I'm going to these bands and listening to them. And it's like, oh my gosh, I never heard you before, but now I'm listening to you all the time. It's really what live music can do to you, is turn you on to different genres. And so, yeah, I always try to get something different, something close. And I've told the guys this, you get wide shots, you get medium shots, you get tight shots. And a lot of times the tight shots tell the story just as much as the wide shot does. If you know who Flea was, he's got it imprinted on his fingers, and that's what it tells that story, and being able to hear the bass just by looking at the photo, that's what I want to convey. But I really have enjoyed my concerts that I've been shooting, and I've been shooting a lot. I'm glad it's back into the season where we can, or not season, but COVID's away, so we can actually go to concerts again.
Yeah, I think live music has been a real big part of my my comeback, if you will, from some pretty tragic stuff, and I know that I've flocked to it a lot more, and now have some favorite bands, and like you, I'm listening to more music now than I ever have. I kind of had that podcast era there for a couple of years, and then I'm still listening to those every once in a while. But it said I know there's a couple shots that you took during some concerts that I'm like, okay, who is that? And yeah, you've turned me on to look some people up and to figure out, because again, Tulsa is this great place where live music comes. We've got Cain's, we've got the BOK Center, we've got the Vanguard, we got so many different venues that will bring in live music. And again, we try to capture that in the Tulsa World. It's not, we have news, we have sports, but we also have entertainment and arts. And we really care about that coverage as much as we do the other things. And I go, you working with Nicole Marshall Middleton, our editor of our scene section that covers arts and entertainment. That's important coverage too. It can't just be all the serious stuff. We've also got to bring some culture, and music is certainly part of that. There's one last photo that I wanted to kind of talk about. There's always a, you kind of go back and forth, Tom. You in your portfolio, you got some tragedy, you've got some music, and you got some beer. You are a beer blogger for a long time now. You've had the What the Ale blog. Back when blogs were a thing, you were writing about beer, and you're going to be working with some of our other colleagues across Lee Enterprises, which owns the Tulsa World, to be doing some podcasts on food and drink. And you've been writing a lot about and photographing some of the best beer shots. I think you've figured out every single way to shoot beer.
There's always another way. There's always another way. But yeah,
Exactly.
that's one of the things. I mean, beer is, you can make it look beautiful. I mean, usually the color is just gorgeous, and you light it the proper way, and it makes it look like you want to drink it. But
talk about the revolution of beer, especially craft beer in Oklahoma over the last 10 years.
Well, like in 2008, Eric Marshall started Marshall Brewing Company, and he made regular strength beer, and then that's sort of when it started. And I've always had a passion for beer. I lived in Saudi Arabia for a little bit, and they don't allow alcohol there, but you can brew your own beer. So I came back and, I went to Germany for a while, spent some time traveling around Europe, and just that culture, the beer culture, it's a beer culture. I mean, they have it for lunch or whatever, it's not like you have to have a whole bunch of beer at one time. It's just a drink. So saying that, I come back to the United States, and, the beer here is, I mean, of course, I'm 14, 13 when I come back, and my parents let me brew beer just to, being experimental. I'm at home, I'm not, selling it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I got into the process of brewing. Same thing with process of film. When I'm processing film, that's where I learned to process film and shoot photos, was in Saudi Arabia. So I learned about beer, I learned about photography, and now I'm still doing that. 40 years later, I'm still doing the same thing, but just different, in a different way. One of the things I don't particularly like to write, but it's sort of a challenge. I mean, things are challenging to write, because I've always been a photographer. I've always shot photos. I haven't had to, and captions were always like, oh geez, I got to write captions. It's one of those things that it's not, photography has always been the first thing. But I was sort of not thrown into it. I mean, I took it on to write about beer, and to write and shoot and do everything. I mean, I pretty much the whole package. It's a lot of fun, because your brain has to work differently than shooting video, shooting stills. I mean, I got to do three different things. So I try to learn how to do that in one, as quick as I possibly can, because I don't have time to spend all day at the brewery, which I wish I could, but I don't.
Sure.
So beer in Tulsa is just like gone crazy. American Solera was named one of the best breweries in the world, and they're right here in Tulsa. And Prairie Artisan Ale started here, and it's all over the world as well. And the local breweries here are doing fantastic stuff. I don't think we have a brewery that just puts out bad beer. I mean, every place you go, they make good stuff. So that's what's fun about covering that, because you don't ever have to say, oh, I don't want to go there because it's terrible beer. But it's a good thing to have, I think, and I think people enjoy reading about it.
Well, and again,
videos.
And again, they've been renovating buildings downtown, making those into, from abandoned buildings to buildings you want to go to. As I said, they're getting reputations not only in town and state, but across the country, across the world. And again, we've got so many now that have popped up. That's kind of now gone to some other cities in Oklahoma, and those have started to pop up with their own breweries. And because again, people will travel for beer, and especially a beer that's, that they can't get in the store everywhere. So that's definitely something that we wanted to report on and capture.
One of the cool things that's happening right now, and I see it happening more, is satellite breweries. Like I said, American Solera is opening one in Oklahoma City, or in Edmond, and they had one at 18th in Boston. And so all they have to do is have some setup where it can be like a barrel system. They have to have the capability of brewing, but they can bring in their beer from their main where they manufacture it. So their main place can bring in the beer, and they just have to have a little kit there. So I see these smaller towns opening up breweries like crazy with these satellite breweries.
Yeah.
And it becomes the center of the community. Broken Arrow's got 2 breweries, and it's a fairly large town, but they're both successful. And it's not like a one brewery town. I mean, they could probably have another brewery and be fine. Enid's got 2 breweries, not even a mile apart. So these smaller communities are, Pawhuska's got one, Ponca City's got one. So it's a community place. It's not just a bar. It's a place to meet, and that's growing. That's going to be happening all over the place. So.
Well, as the revolution in craft beer continues in breweries, you're going to be there covering it on the What the Ale blog. And again, also, Tom, again, thank you so much for what you do for us. As I tell you and the other photographers, you guys are the eyes of Tulsa, and you guys go out there and see firsthand what's happening so many times. And sharing that and giving that access and insight to our readers is something that makes us special. And so really appreciate what you do for us. Thanks for joining me today. This is the Newsroom podcast, available on Apple, Google, Spotify. And again, we'll catch you next time when we have another story behind the story. Thank you.